better. Like 15 years ago, there's
the Passionate Eye and Doc Zone that are still, they still function. There's a documentary unit in Toronto. There are documentary producers based all across the country. The budgets that are coming from the federal government have shrunk consistently. You're absolutely right, over the last 20 years or so. On radio, my side of things, the Current still runs documentaries all the time, 3 times a week, half an hour at a time, and Ideas runs every night, Monday to Friday, an hour-long documentary, 54 minutes on the radio. So it's there, but it's the small...
Yeah, and it's under attack. At the last CRTC hearings in the fall, when they were talking about the Astral Bell deal that got turned down, George Coe refused to call it the CBC. It was the government broadcaster. Language is important, and they're under attack. The only people left in this country doing some sort of independent documentary, and they're under attack.
And if Harper has his way, they'll be completely gone by...
Yeah.
Don't forget the National Film Board. We still have a National Film Board in this country.
Yeah, which is smartly going more towards web, the web work, because that's the only place they can afford to produce the work now.
All right. Someone else?
I just want to say I'm
Thank you, Dave.
thrilled to hear everything. It's fascinating. I was wondering if Irene has any thoughts about the precarity of teachers' jobs, because aren't they year-to-year contracts as well? Is that an unfair comparison?
Well, you know, it's very interesting that you should ask that question, because when we were talking about this, I was thinking about healthcare in this province, where they, you know, ripped up the HEU collective agreement to contract out a whole bunch of those jobs, which have been flipped through different companies, and that work has become, we used to have cleaners and food service, good union jobs, a fairly living wage close to $20 an hour, started again at minimum wage, the HEU reunionized them under a private, so you know, that happened in healthcare. Now, in teaching, we had that situation where people were having a temporary contract for a year and it was being renewed every year, and we bargained language in most districts that said after, in Vancouver, the one I know best, after 10 months on temporary, you convert to continuing. 10 months plus a day. So you get temporaries that add up to more than a year, you get a continuing contract, and you know, so that's remained the same. But remember when Bill 22 came in February, and the government again attacked teachers? A piece of that bill was to get rid of post and fill language and get rid of seniority provisions and lay off by seniority, right? And the teachers fought it back. The government backed off in June. They rolled over their old, so they haven't lost it yet. But certainly the government has tried. And the reason they want to do that is for their 20th century learning model.
21st century.
21st century.
But you know, 20th
I'm just only 100 right, it's only 100 years. And so that attack has happened across the labor movement, in healthcare, in education, in government service, even in the master agreement. Lorene can tell you they love contracting out, you know, and they're reducing another 1,800 jobs in the public service in this province. So it's, but we've lost tons of teachers, and we hear the same kinds of stories from teachers on call. You know, new student teachers, you know, I can't even get on a teacher on call list, right? Vancouver's not hiring anybody now, not even putting an open. So I do think you're right. It's a broken system, and that broken system is true in the media. It's true in all kinds of other jobs too.
And I just want to say it's equally true in post-secondary education.
Yes.
I mean,
we're
dealing with exactly the same
they don't hire
situation.
tenure track
We're not hiring tenure track professors anymore. We have a small, coddled group of professors at the center of the system, and at the outside of the system, we have a growing army of workers who are paid by the course. And in order to teach a course now, you have to give a job talk at some colleges. One course. I mean, they're interviewing 2 or 3 people to teach one course. You're competing by the course. I mean, I have so many friends who I went through university with. Really talented, intelligent people, great teachers. They've given up. They have no hope of making it.
And an interning job in a year.
Right, exactly. Then going to journalism. The future is so rosy.
If I may, just one other thing. I mean, when we talk about all this, I think it hasn't been said, but it needs to be said, that politics is important.
Yes.
We talk about changing the system. We talk about, you know, some of these basic things, and the frustrations that people are feeling. We can afford it in this country. There's no doubt about it. You look at the Norway law, right? I mean, they don't give away their resources to the highest bidder. They go, no, wait a minute, that belongs to the citizens. And if you want, I happened to have worked with some Norwegians last year, they call them the Texans. When the Texans come in, they want the oil, they go, okay, you get to develop our fields and you get to make that money. And in return, you're doing this for us, for our country. There's no question, and it goes back to the brother here who was talking about, you know, a petro state. There's no question that, because politics is important, if we change the model, and that comes from us, we saw it happen. You know, you think to yourself, well, that's too big, you can't do it. But we saw it happen in this country this past summer with the Quebec student movement. That was an incredible grassroots movement. People with pots and pans in the street changed the system for the better. It can be done. And Catherine, you were going to pick up on that.
Oh, I thought what happened in Quebec was amazing. But I did want to sort of double back and answer the first question on the list. Does working in communications and creative industries fit the traditional definition of labor? It absolutely does. It's work by anybody's definition. And it ought to be paid properly.
And I wanted to just follow up on what Mark said, because, you know, we can have the system where we have a fund, and I believe in a minimum basic income. I'm not arguing against that. But it seems to me that it is also possible to have good, steady jobs, well paid, with benefits, with pensions. And Sweden does it. You mentioned Norway. 80% unionization, right? Excellent healthcare, education, always at the top of the list. Very good social services, paid daycare. Rules about 50% women on public boards. You know, it can be done, but with those poor Scandinavian countries, we're always using them as examples, but thank God they exist because it can be done, right? So I agree politics is important. Those are the kinds of things we need to fight for, push governments, elect governments that are willing to change to that kind of system, or at least move there in some measure. Yes.
I'd just love a little bit of a follow-up in terms of my initial inquiry, and that is, you know, if our institution, our progressive institutions, unions, cooperatives, agreed on Paracon models, which basically means, you know, you don't do business with non-Paracon models, and if there aren't any, you inspire them and provide support so that they can exist. You know, those, I'm just wondering, within our progressive institutions and unions, do you think there is enough momentum that way in order to, you know, from the bottom up, inspire and take it and keep the amazing abilities of Gen Y in this, you know, progressive movement?
To directly answer your question, I think the potential is there. Have we been able to fully tap into it and use it to its full potential? Not even close. I think we're starting to. And there's a number of things, kind of a long story, but certainly my union is looking at, it's a private sector union, not a public sector union, but it's looking at a new partnership and a new way of operating within the country in partnership with the CAW. So I think the direct answer to your question is the potential is there.
And drawing people in who are not necessarily...
Yeah, who aren't traditionally covered by a certified bargaining unit.
That's right. Okay, we have about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to say whatever you like.
I just wanted to touch on the question of technology just for a moment, because you know, technology on the one hand has reduced the number of jobs, but it's also where your power lies, I think. And I mean, I could, maybe I'm totally off base here, but I actually think that you guys have the key that the employers need. Because what I'm seeing at both the institutions that I'm involved in is a lot of people sort of in the upper echelon, they don't have the full and rich understanding of how the technology works or what it's capable of or the change that it can actually make the way that you guys do. And I learn this every day in class with my students. They see and think about technology in a completely different way. I'm still half analog, and they're digital fully. And I think that it won't be long before there's a real recognition at the highest levels, in the creative industry for sure, but I think across the board, that people are going to realize that you guys have an ability to use and change the game. And I think that's where the hope is going to be. So these times I know are frustrating and difficult, but I think that that's where the change is really going to happen, and that's where you guys are going to be able to walk in and show them the way, and not always be subject to the way that they see things. So,
Any last comments?
I would just close by saying I think we live in a hyper-competitive society. We're encouraged to be individualist and competitive against each other. And I think that change will happen in these industries when we stop looking at the person who has what we want and say that we will do anything to get their job. And we begin to look at the people that we're supposed to be competing against and to begin collaborating, cooperating with them. And I think that that's actually different.
Well, that was a fabulous discussion because we had such great panelists, I think, and because we had a great audience. So thank you very much for your